What illegal thing do you do on a regular basis? In college, parking cost $500 per semester, which I couldn't afford. Instead, I parked on campus each day until I received a parking ticket. I paid the $50 fine online but kept the ticket. Whenever I parked after that, I placed the old ticket on my windshield to make it seem like I had already been fined. This strategy worked for 2 years, saving me $1,000 in parking fees. Then one day, I came out of class to find 2 tickets on my car and a note that read, "Nice try." Story 2. As a kid, I thought it was normal to buy movies the day after they were released from the Chinese lady in the chicken shop. I didn't realize this was illegal until middle school, when I mentioned to someone that my grandma had a DVD of Avatar. They told me that was impossible since the movie was still in theaters. Story 3. I've never told anyone this before, but when I was 15 in 1979, I stole a Datsun 240Z from my neighborhood. Walking home from a friend's house on a hot summer night, I spotted the cool Z car with a key sticking out of the driver's door lock. Always thinking it would be amazing to drive, I looked around, saw no one, and took it for a ride. It was a beautiful car, and I drove all around the valley. This car deserved better than a joyride, so after a few hours, I returned it to its spot around 4 a.m. I figured the owner wouldn't notice except for the missing third of a tank of gas. I kept the key, thinking they'd assume they misplaced it. A couple of weeks later, I did it again, but this time the gas tank was nearly empty, so I had to fill it up. I followed the same routine, driving it around and returning it without being noticed. A week later, I took the car up to Big Bear Lake to experience the mountain roads. It was incredible until I stopped at a gas station market and bumped into one of my older brother's friends. He knew I was only 15, without a driver's license or car, let alone a vintage sports car. I can't remember the lies I told him, but I knew I was in trouble. I rushed back to Palm Springs, stopped at a 7-Eleven to fill the tank, and sneaked the car back into the driveway. I left a scribbled thank you note, telling the owner I loved their car, advising them not to leave the key in the door overnight, and mentioned that I filled the tank. Oh, and my brother's friend. He never said a word to anyone about seeing me. Story 4. When I was younger, my sister and I were driving when we saw a raccoon that had been hit by a car. We pulled over to see if it was still alive. It wasn't, but there was a baby raccoon cuddling up to it. Feeling sorry for the little guy, we took him in. He ended up living with us for about 14 years until he passed away. Owning a raccoon without a license is technically illegal, but considering they only live around 3 years in the wild, I like to think we gave him a good life. We lived in a small town and regularly took him for walks to the park. He loved people and even sat on my shoulder during a 4th of July parade. R.I.P. Bandit. Story 5. I exceed the speed limit about 80% of the time I'm driving. It's not that I enjoy speeding, I just really dislike driving and want to get it over with as quickly as possible. I can't wait for teleportation to become a reality.